biotechnology from Amity University, and now I will be pursuing a master's in biotechnology from Penn State University. And I've wanted to become a genetic engineer ever since I was 15, actually, and now I'm one step closer to that dream. But to be honest, exactly a year ago, I was very confused and I had so many queries as to whether to pursue masters from India or from abroad and what is the procedure. So I feel you and I hope that I can be of as much help as possible. I'm really glad I'm here today.
All right. In fact, it's our pleasure to have you here, Shreya, because to hear you say that 1 year ago, you were in this place and now you're here, it must have been a very important journey. I think I see a lot of students signing up every day in our webinars, constantly eagerly asking questions because they're also not quite confused. So I hope we can have a good session today and share a lot of your experiences here. Now, guys in the audience, I hope you're all on the same page and you're able to hear and see the entire webinar clearly. So, in fact, Anmol says it's good to see another Amity in here. You have a lot of Amity people here, Shreya. All right. Okay. So, can you take us through your GRE score first of all? What kind of GRE score do you have in your quant verbal breakdown?
So I got a 315 in my GRE. I had 158 in my verbal and 157 in my quant.
All right, so 158 in verbal and a 157 in quant and an
Yeah.
AWA of 4.5. I think that's a pretty good score. Now, usually you must have pretty, I'm very sure you would have been exposed to a lot of people who said 320, 325 is kind of the right number to target. And
Yeah.
When you had a 315 in your GRE, what was your thought? Did you feel it was not good enough or were you concerned? What was that like?
So actually, I was very satisfied because for my course, this was my target score. This was exactly what the score I was targeting. So I got not a point less, not one more. But one myth that I would like to bust today is that the GRE is not the end of the world. And your whole application is actually based on your whole profile. So everything is looked at. There's the SOP, there are the LORs. Your whole profile will be evaluated. So the GRE score is just a pass. That I mean, you just have to pass this exam. That's all.
All right. So I think given the course that you're going for, that is very important to understand what your respective course requires and building your profile accordingly. I think that's typically engineering fields not follow the same standards. They have a very, very high competitive GRE score. That kind of makes sense. Now, guys in the audience, I can see a lot of people posting questions which specific to some of you want to talk about GRE, some of you want to talk about SOP. We're going to cover all of that one by one, but we have a flow that we have decided. So let's just go through it one by one. Now, the next question I have for you is that, so clearly the myth you've busted here tells us that it's not just about one score. It's about
Yeah,
a broad profile and a holistic point of view, right? So can you
absolutely.
take us through what kind of profile do you have, Shreya? What kind of undergrad did you did? What kind of internships or work experience you have? Can you take us through that?
Yeah, sure. So my undergrad was in biotechnology, where I got a very holistic idea of the of biology and mingling it with technology. And I also had a minor in nanotechnology. So what I want to do in the future is that I want to mix biotechnology and nanotechnology and go in the medical aspect of this field. But biotechnology also has a greater coverage, like in energy or there's so much. There's food production or there's water cleaning. So there's everything included. So talking about internships, I recently did a 6-month research project from UNESCO TBT Regional Center for Biotechnology, and I did 2 summer internships before that. So internships actually give you a very good exposure to the outside world and how the industry that you're studying about in books actually works.
All right, that's indeed true. I think that will give you a understanding of how the real world works with the knowledge you at an academic setting. I think that's where the internships work experience kind of make you tune towards what is actually needed by an organization. That kind of gives
Exactly.
a ring to it. Now, guys, that's so far for the people who've just joined us. Just a quick recap. I have with me our special guest, Ms. Shreya, with a 315 in GRE and a wonderful admit in Pennsylvania. She's here. Who's going to fly to USA next week and is here with us to share her experience, because 1 year before she was exactly where you were, and it's been a very important 1 year that which most of you will be going through as well. So do feel free to ask as many questions as you would like and get it clarified. So don't worry. So first of all, moving forward to the next part of our today's webinar, Shreya, you've got a 315 in GRE. You've got good internships. I think a pretty good undergrad GPA as well. What kind of universities were you looking at, and what are the universities you've got admits so far?
Okay, so I was looking at universities which were good in research in biotechnology, because eventually I want to get into research. So I got admits from UT Dallas, Texas Tech, Penn State University, Northwestern, Northeastern, and University of California, Irvine. So I had applied to 7 universities and I got into 6 out of 7.
6 out of 7. That's a phenomenal selection ratio. Actually, I think you bang on. All the universities are on target. So I believe you've decided to go forward with Penn State, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Now, there's an important question from Abhishek Datta. Given your field, why did you pick up USA and not Canada for your masters right now?
Okay, that is good questions, because I picked up USA because Canada is very new in this field. In terms of the research that goes on in USA is state of the art. So that is why I wanted to go to USA.
All right. So I think the research is something very important to consider, and the exposure you get in USA is indeed phenomenal. There are some universities, in fact, Abhishek, to address your question, there are some universities like UBC, British Columbia, Alberta. There are some universities, but at the end of the US, the kind of exposure you get and the job opportunities when you come out is phenomenal with respect to the department that you're looking
I'd
at.
also like to add one thing actually. So the Canadian admissions, they start around November, December, and I had my GRE on 10th of November. So I was a little late for the admissions in Canada. So that is also another reason why I opted for US.
All right. So I hope that answers your question. I think Abhishek. Now, moving forward, a very important question here, which I just want to say, Snigdha Reddy wants to. I want to increase my score to 320. How do I do it? I'll get in the details of that, Snigdha. Right now, we're just going it one by one. So the next most common question we're going to see here shares that this concept of scholarships. Now, definitely, masters is not a very easy affair. It kind of involves a lot of commitment, a lot of dedication, and a lot of support financially. So, with respect to scholarships, what have you done so far? Have you acquired scholarship, and what's your plan ahead as you go for your MS?
So right now, I'm planning to apply for
Uh, Hello. All right. So I think there's a small lag in the feed, guys. Just give us a minute. All right. So just caught up with that guest. I think she's back with us. So
Can you
far,
hear me?
just yes, Shreya, I am able to hear
Okay.
you. So I think
Okay.
this is just one. Yes, you can continue, Shreya.
Yeah.
We're talking about scholarships right now on how you're going to take it forward.
Okay. So how much did you hear?
Uh, Actually, nothing.
Oh, okay. So right now from Penn State University, I do not have any scholarships because it is an 18-month course, which is going to be very intensive. So they do not provide any teaching or research assistantships. But from my second semester, I will be eligible for merit-based scholarships, for which I would fully try. But talking about scholarships, it's actually very difficult to get. And initially, even I was looking for one. I mean, it was like I would only go to US if I get a scholarship. And I did get one from Texas Tech, but eventually I did not choose Texas Tech. So, yeah.
All right. Now, And how is your financial planning going to be like? What are your options right now? Because a lot of students depend only on scholarship to go for masters, and when that's not there, it becomes very difficult. So what's your take on that?
Okay, so I have decided to take an education loan to finance my tuition fees, and my father is going to help me with the living costs. So yes, that is how I'm planning right now.
All right. Now, moving forward to the next part, I think we can come back and address more about scholarships one by one. So, just for the audience to catch up, in fact, Shreya had taken a GRE two times, and the first time she scored a 304. She did not give up at that point of time and realized she needs just to do a little better. And within just 30 to 45 days of preparation, she was able to push her GRE from a 304 to 315. 11-point score boost in 30 days is phenomenal. So, just to get a context of your preparations, Shreya, can you take us through what was different between the first time and the second time? What made that big difference of 11 point score boost?
Okay, so one very real thing I would like to mention to everyone is that your preparations are on one side, and your state of mind during the exam is on the other side. I clearly remember during my first GRE, I was extremely nervous, and the AVA is your first section. So the first R is for the AWA, where you have to type the essay. So everyone was continuously typing their essays, and I was so intimidated that everyone is typing so fast, and maybe I'm not up to the mark or something. So that went on at the back of my mind, and I think somehow that affected my whole exam. And the second thing that I would like to mention is that you have a surprise section at the end of the GRE, which could be a verbal or a quant, which is too much to take. Actually, it's a whole 5-hour exam, so you need to keep your stamina till the end and not be like, okay, I'll just let it go, because it may count, it may not count. You will not know. And talking about preparations, it was all practice, practice. I practiced RC a lot because during my first test, I was a little weak in RC and some sections in quant. And I actually identified where I was going wrong, which was very important, because it's not just that, okay, I'm going wrong, so maybe in the next time I'll be right. It's like you have to rectify why you're going wrong, understand that. So sit with yourself and analyze all those points. And I also used to practice little meditation to go with it. So that is how that helped me in my second test.
Wow, I think while it may sound very cheesy to talk about meditation, but I think it does make a big difference, especially when you're
Yes,
going for
yes.
an exam like GRE, where you're not technically competing with others, but there are about 50 other people typing the keyboard as fast as you
Mhm.
mentioned. It kind of
Exactly.
gets onto your nerves, and I think it's very
Yeah.
important. So that's actually fantastic. And it's interesting that you mentioned that you believe that RC was one area that you had to work on, and some parts of quant, right? Now, first, speaking of RC, because a lot of people here in this webinar are looking for RC primarily.
Mhm.
If I ask you, like, what would a definitive guide to mastering RC be?
Okay. So, first, you have to understand what the comprehension is about. And everyone keeps telling you read between the lines, but what does it actually mean to read between the lines? So, what I used to do is when I read a line or two in the paragraph, I used to repeat it to myself in my head in my own language, which I felt comfortable in. You can do the same in whatever language you're comfortable in, and that actually helps you understand better. And after a lot of practice, it becomes very natural that as soon as you read, you do it in your head. It's not something that you have to think and do like a whole method. So it becomes very naturally after that, and that helps you understand the passage. And once you understand that, you can easily tackle questions. The second thing was in TC or SC, where there are questions where there are two correct answers or three correct answers. So that is a little difficult because you get one right and one wrong, and you don't get a score at all.
Yeah.
So I used to practice the elimination method for that. So
Mm.
what I used to do is that I used to see the first option, whether it would fit in the sentence. Again, when I read the sentence, I would quickly play it in my mind as to what it actually means. And if the first did not go, I would strike it out, then the second, then the third. And in the end, you will be left with two options which are correct. And also, yeah, mastering the words is a little important when it comes to that, because you have to understand what the word means.
All right. Okay. I think that's very important tip to be considering, especially like because GRE is not about getting that one answer right. There are a lot of places where RC especially, you have to, once if you get one question wrong and everything following up can also screw up.
Yeah, exactly.
Same goes for data interpretation as well. If you get the
Mm.
first data wrong, it
Yes.
just screws up the entire question and then you lose a lot of points. So
Mm.
I think that way it makes sense. The next important thing that when it comes to verbal is the vocabulary challenge, right? That's something. How did you go about the entire vocabulary? How many words did you learn? These are the questions I'm reading out right from the audience as well. Very curious to understand that strategy. Can you take us through that?
Okay. I don't exactly remember how many words I learned, but I used this wordbot app, which was provided by GRE Edge. And that app was very user friendly. There were pictures associated with the words, there were sentences made. So that's how you can relate to the words and understand them better. There were little tests, there were revision tests that you could take. And then I made flashcards for the words that I could not remember. And I actually had a friend who was also preparing for her GRE at that time. So we used to sit together and discuss the words. I would ask her one and she would tell me the meaning and vice versa. So that helped me a lot. Those flashcards I made in different colored paper so that it's good to read. That was helpful.
Okay, wow. All right. That's actually very interesting. If you have a friend who's preparing for GRE exam as you compare with GRE, I think that peer support really motivates you to keep moving forward. I
Absolutely.
think you also build a lot of associations of the fact that you've discussed this word, I remember those kind of associations, which is what actually Word also does. It gives you the association without, having that company. But this is actually pretty good. Moving forward, I think GRE wise, it's this kind of is very important. But when it comes to quant, what were the areas that you believe that you were bad at, and how did you identify, or how did you go about changing it in the second attempt?
Okay, so initially I was not very good with work bar problems, and my geometry was, I wouldn't say it was weak, but I was making silly mistakes in it. Like, there are some things that if the figure is not drawn to scale, you shouldn't assume that it is drawn to scale, and these questions come a lot in GRE actually. And data interpretation was also a challenge. They were fun to do these sums, but they were a little difficult. But yeah, I practiced a lot for my second exam.
Right. So practice does make a very big difference. Now,
Yes.
I think that's a lot of information about GRE we've covered right now. Let's get into the actual details where I think this is something phenomenal to look at. The application process, right? There are a lot of information available about GRE in the internet that students can refer to and learn. But GRE, the admission process is not like that. There's a lot of information that you learn as you start doing the process for yourself. That's more of an experimental learning, right? So,
Yes.
from the outset, what were the challenges that you had in the application process?
Well, the very first and the biggest challenge was lack of information, because your friends tell you something, your seniors tell you something, your family says something, so you don't have consolidated information in one go. So the first thing I did was I sat down and collected everything from the different sources, and I think GRE has helped me a lot in terms of being a source of updated and accurate information. So I sat down, made a timeline for myself as to what to do when I should take the GRE, when I should take my TOEFL, and when I should start with my applications. And then the second thing was the questions that I had, like who would be the best people who would write the LORs for me that would actually stand out in my application. What should I include in the SOP? So these were big questions, and then the most important was how to select universities, which one would be the best for me. So these were initial challenges that I faced in the application process.
All right. So I think, like you mentioned, the lack of awareness is very very common problem, and addressing that is one of the reasons why we have these webinars as well. Uh, I think the next part of this webinar, I want to focus on this primarily, which is university selection, right?
Okay.
I think even you would have understood from the last year when you attended the webinars, the first question that people ask is, I have this GRE score, I have this GPA, what kind of universities do I target? Or should I always look at MIT, Stanford, or look at the top five universities? What do you think is the ideal methodology by which one should approach university shortlisting right now?
Actually, that was my initial thinking that I should only apply to the top five universities. But then I learned that you must categorize the universities in terms of what is ambitious for your profile, which ones would be moderate, and which ones would be safe, in which you will surely get an admit. So categorization is one thing that I learned during this process. Then you have to look into the ranking for your course. Like the university might be highly ranked in the world, but your course or your department might not be that prominent. So that is important to look at. And if you want to go into research, then you also have to see the relevance of the research in your area of interest, because you wouldn't want to do something else. And if that kind of research is not going on in that university, then it's a waste of time and money. So that has to be looked at. And then the tuition fees, the living costs in that city, all these things also play a very important part.
Yeah, I think you're right. In fact, like I said, a lot of people still think on that first ranking. Now, if you had to break up into parameters and say this is how you go about it, what were the important things that you would suggest our students to take away from this?
So the first one being choosing the correct course and specialization, because you have to make up your mind which course you want to pursue your master's in. Because even for me, initially, I wanted to do a specialized course like in molecular biology or cell biology in terms of biotechnology. But then, after talking to my counselor, after discussing with my parents and my faculty, I came to the conclusion that I will go for a master's in biotech with a specialization in molecular or cell biology instead of going for the particular course. So that is very important. And then the
Mm,
costs, of
mhm.
course, the living costs, the tuition fees, the miscellaneous costs. You have to put it all down. Like I used to make an Excel sheet and put the universities one after the other and write all the costs, the total cost that would come. So that helped me understand which one would be a better option, a viable option.
Mm,
Then
mm.
the department ranking, like I mentioned, that it is important to see how good your department is, how long it's been there in that university, the kind of faculty profile you need to look at, and the kind of research that is going on in
Mm.
your field, in your area of interest.
All right.
That sums it up.
I think these parameters are, I think, very important guidelines when you look at university shortlisting because it kind of is the most important decision you're about to take. From here on, it's all about the documentation process, but this is the very initial step. I think a lot of students get stuck as well. Now, the next part, or the next important part, in fact, Priyanka Kumari has a follow-up question for you from the audience. How do you see the subject ranking or the department ranking of universities?
So you can simply Google it. Like I used to Google it, and there are many platforms like US World Ranking and all. So you can check them out there.
All right, so I hope that answers your question, Priyanka. Now, next question Prashant Singh asked me is that, in fact, this is one something I was expecting. Is there any chance for people with 7 pointers or a low GRE score to with no research background to get an admit in a university in USA? What do you think about it?
I think it is absolutely possible. You have to focus on your SOP and your LORs. So I realized that the Americans look a lot into how people have talked about you, like your letter of recommendation, how good you have been. Because it's not always important that if you have a good GPA, you'll be good in that subject or in that course altogether. So yes, definitely you can get an admit in the US.
All right, so I hope that addresses question, Prashant. Now, as we move forward, one more follow-up question from Shreya from the audience. Wow. The question is, how did you compare locations when you were doing the shortlist? Did you take that into consideration?
I did. So I was a little skeptical about the cold actually, and the winters can be pretty torturing in the US. But then I chose Pennsylvania, which is again cold. But yeah, locations is important. Where there are some places where the crime rates are more, so you have to look into that too. So altogether, like yes, I did consider that.
All right. Okay. So moving forward, the next question I have for you is, I think this is the most crucial part of today's webinar, the statement of purpose. Now, a lot has been said and discussed about this throughout your year at GRH. I think we also have we kind of generate so many statement of purpose, and we also keep it a point to keep it personalized, and it has to reflect the best interest of the student at the end of the day. But from your experience, having gone through the entire journey, how important do you believe the statement of purpose is, and how do you think a student can go forward and how to write an SOP?
Okay. So the statement of purpose is going to be the most crucial aspect of your whole profile, of your whole application, because they give it a lot of importance, the universities, and you have to put a lot of effort in it too, because it's not like you'll just sit down one day and come up with an SOP in 2 hours. This is just not possible. So after like 10, 12 drafts, you will finally be satisfied that, okay, I am going to send this. And the things that I believe should be there in the SOP are that write a genuine life story of yours. So tell them what your hardships have been, the challenges that you have overcome, and don't just list down your achievements. Also list down the experiences, your take home from those achievements. Like, don't just say I did an internship at so and so place. Tell them that what you did in that internship. Maybe you collaborated with an intern and worked on a project, or presented a paper or a poster later on that, and you learn teamwork or leadership skills through that. So that is what they want to know, what you learned, not what you just did. So that is one very important aspect of the SOP. And secondly, like around the conclusion, you can mention what your future goals are, your future plans, near and far. What you actually want to do, why you are the best suited for this master's program, and why the university should take you, and what are you looking at in the university that would satisfy your own needs for this master's program.
All right. I think that kind of gives a framework on how to go about the statement of purpose. In fact, a lot of questions follow up coming from the audience. Teju from the audience has a question for you. What if I don't have any projects or internship experience? But how do I write a persuasive SOP? What should I cover mostly in it?
Okay, you might not have any research experience, but you must have worked in labs in your university, right? Because we all have lab classes. So tell them what you learned in those classes, and say you want to go for research further, then how the seeds of research were sowed in you. Tell them how initially you came into this subject and why you are so much interested in it. So that could be one way to persuade them that yes, you are genuinely interested in doing a master's in that subject. But don't be too verbose. Like, it's not important to use highly verbose words that you learned in your GRE. So just be simple, in simple language. Just write what you actually mean.
All right. So I hope that answers your question. In fact, moving forward to the next part. Okay, what was the reason that you got a counselor for helping with the SOP? What was? How did it make it helpful? A question from this is Jaspreet. I'm sorry, Jaspreet has a question.
Okay, so initially when I sat down to write my SOP, I jotted down some points, some achievements that I had, but I did not know how to start. So, should I start with a quote, or should I just start with I am so and so and I want to do a master's here? So, the counselor actually helped me polish those achievements. She's the one who taught me that to include the soft skills instead of just listing down your achievements. And they polished the language quite a lot, so that helped my SOP actually stand out.
All right. So I hope that answers your question, Jaspreet. Moving forward to the next part of this questions. One is okay, a lot more questions on the same lines. Let me just see for some questions that would make a difference. Okay, now how to enrich my SOP? Is there any necessary add-ons that you can talk about? Isn't like a flow that you would recommend for the students to take when we start writing an SOPs?
Okay, I could just tell you how I wrote mine, so we can come up with the flow through that. So initially, in the first paragraph, I wrote why I'm interested in this subject, which is biotechnology. I wrote how my interest in it started, and I wrote why I want to do a master's in their university and what it could provide me, how it would be better for me. Then, just very simple, like a summary of what the rest of your SOP is going to read is included in the first paragraph. Then, slowly in the second and third paragraph, I started writing down my start of interest in biotechnology. And like I said, I always wanted to become a genetic engineer. So that was easy for me. Then the third and around the fourth paragraph, I mentioned about my internships, my research experience, which wasn't much actually, because in the applications they only take up to your 6 semesters of your undergrad. So it wasn't much at all. I just had two internships at that time, and I was just going into my final year internship. Then I mentioned one paragraph about some other skills. Like I used to do a lot of debates in college. I used to take part in competitions and volunteer work that I did, or leadership positions, teamwork skills, how these things were ameliorated. That is what I mentioned. And in the last two paragraphs, I talked about, I said that so this undergrad course in biotechnology had helped me gain a very wholesome idea of the different aspects of it. But now I wanted to narrow it down to the specifics so that it would provide my career a direction. So that is why I wanted to go to their university, and these courses, these electives, or this particular professor I am really looking forward to work with. And then what are my future plans? So I wrote that I wanted to do a PhD, but before that I wanted to gain some work experience, and so that I know what is going on in the industry and do some research which is which has direct applicability in the industry. So that is how I framed my final two paragraphs, and that summed the whole SOP up.
All right, all right. So I hope that gives you a rough flow. I think the question has been quite clearly answered. In fact, nothing can be better. Now, a question from Simran from the audience. He wants to understand, why is it important to have multiple drafts of SOP? Should I send the same SOP to all the universities? Should I have multiple drafts?
No, you should certainly have multiple drafts, but they don't need to be 100% different from each other. So there is one basic draft that you have, and then you can work on it, make modifications depending on the university. Because, say, there's a professor in one university that you want to work with, or there's a particular elective there, so that won't be the same in all the universities. So that is why that is the main part that you have to change, and the name of the university, of course. So it's not much of a change, but yes, some change is definitely required.
All right. So I hope that addresses your question, Simran. Now, moving forward to the next part, just one follow-up question I can see from Vartika. She wants to understand, they take sixth semester internship. What does that mean?
No, what I meant was that only 6 semesters are taken into account during your applications, which was for me because I was still in my undergrad while I was applying. So there were 2 semesters still left, the seventh and the eighth, for my BTech. So that is what I meant. I hope it's clear now.
All right. Yes, I think that's quite clear. Now, moving forward, I think the one more thing that we usually miss out on discussing is the fact that there's something called a CV, right? This is something not everybody discuss, or even you won't receive a lot of information, but only when you apply in your application process, you see how important CV is considered. Now,
Hmm.
how do you recommend, or what do you recommend someone how to come up with the right CV
Hmm.
that will persuade the admission committee to like give you an admit?
Okay, so what you need to include in the CV are the standard things, your academics, your achievements, but the way you include them is what matters. It has to be crisp, it has to be in one line, and use power words like use terms like collaborated or actively participated, things like these, which make your CV stand out. I remember that I had this interview with Northwestern University, and they asked me who helped you write your SOP because they really, sorry, the CV, because they really liked the way it was framed. So yeah, these are the things that you have to basically include. Make it crisp. It does not have to be 5 pages. 2 pages are more than enough, and just short one line about your achievements, about your publications if you have any, or the seminars or workshops that you've attended, things that you've learned from there. That's about all.
All right. Now, I think you couldn't have answered a lot of questions, but I think a lot of clarity in each answer you're giving so far. But one I personally have question for you is a 315, and from our categorizations, about three ambitious admits you've got. Uh, what's the overall story here? What all do you think was important in this 1 year that I think you can tell your juniors probably to ensure that they also do in their journey to ensure they get that admit? What's the story here?
So one thing the first very important thing is that have a clear idea of what course you want to take up, and then make a timeline for yourself, because that is very important, and follow that timeline. And go with your GRE. It's already end of July, so you should start taking your GRE about now or in the next 2 months. And so that's what I did. I got a little late with my GRE, but I finally made it up. And yeah, be positive, be really positive. It is going to happen. You are going to do it. And make your application stand out, and read tips and tricks from the internet, or take counseling help from your friends wherever you feel comfortable with. That is what helped me gain mine, so I hope that works out for you.
All right, I think that definitely would be very informative. Now, guys, like I promised, we're going to have a very long Q&A session here. We'll try to address all the questions possible because, I'm pretty sure most of you have specific things to ask our guest. Um, the first question I want to see is Monica wants to ask you: is it okay to include work experience in your CV?
Yes, of course. It's more than okay. It's very good if you include work experience and if you have it. Like, I always used to think that I don't have any work experience. I did not have any research experience back then too, like no publications and all. But yeah, the whole application, like I said, the whole profile is important, and work experience definitely stands out.
All right. So I hope that answers your question. Now, the next important question I can see is how much time did you spend in your GRE preparation? I mean, per day, like if you had to give a weekly plan up on the score boost, what was your plan like?
Okay, so I had regular college when I had to take my GRE. So I used to wake up early in the morning and start, because I felt fresh in the morning. But yeah, I understand that some students feel more comfortable at night. So then when I came back, I used to do a little bit more. Like, maybe if I did the verbal in the morning, I'd do quant in the evening. I didn't do it at one stretch. Like, didn't sit down for 3 hours or 4 hours at once and study, because I could not do that. I used to take breaks in between. Even in college, in free classes, I used to go up to the library and practice. And like I said, I had a friend with me who was also preparing for hers. So we used to do that together. That really helped boost confidence. And yes, that helped with my preparation. So that is how I used to prepare.
All right. So I hope that answers your question, Teju. Now, Mukul has a question, an interesting one at that. He wants to understand what is the total cost you'll be bearing for your masters, assuming that the first year you don't have a scholarship on an average.
Okay, so firstly, I would say that there's a hidden cost that you don't really anticipate,
Hidden
and
cost,
then
yes.
there is a cost when you finally go to the US. So the hidden cost is that before you go to the US, which is here in India, first taking your GRE, taking your TOEFL, applying for each universities, it costs about 8,000 to 10,000 per university, I would say. And so, like, make a list about for 8 to 10 universities, which you are sure that yes, you are going to apply to these. Then yeah, that the flight tickets and the visa application, so all that comes in the hidden cost. Then the next cost is after you go to the US, which would be your tuition fees and your living costs. So for me, the tuition fees would be about 35 lakh INR, and the living costs would be about 8 to 10 lakh a year. So that would be
All right.
45, yeah, 45 to
All
50.
right. All right. So I hope that answers your question, Mukul. Moving on to the next Part Akshat Srivastava has a question. Is it necessary to have a research paper if you want to go for a MS without work experience?
No, it is not. I did not have a research paper back then. So even I used to think that it's very important, and that always used to go on in the back of my mind that I don't have work ex, I don't have a research paper. So would they even consider my application? But yes, they did. So yeah, I'm sure they will consider yours too and give it good ranking.
I would rather rephrase that. I think it's very important on how would you project your profile, which I think Shreya has
Yes,
done a
very.
fantastic job of. All the way starting from your SOP, LOR, the way the LOR she's collected, the internship she's had, and the way you talk about the internship shows your actual, passion towards the learning, and the
Yes.
clarity of thought. I'm pretty sure everyone would agree with me. In fact, Shreya, can you take us through what's the exact reason you've chosen biotechnology right now, the one you told me?
So, like I said, I always wanted to become a genetic engineer, but that time I thought that that is all biotechnology is about. But after doing my undergraduation, I realized that there is a lot in this subject. Like the population is ever increasing, so there's going to be food shortage. So that is why we need to come up with genetically modified crops or genetically modified organisms, which will help enhance our crops for to provide food for the people. There's going to be water shortage. There's going to be uh, unclean water. So there's another aspect where biotechnology could play a part. Then we would need energy. Fossil fuels are exhausting, like we all know. We've been hearing since school time. So there's going to be ethanol, like second generation, and all these things are going to come up. But my particular interest actually lied in the medical aspect of biotechnology, like cancer biology, and I want to put nanotech and biotech together and devise sustainable solutions or like cost-effective measures for treating cancer, which are also accessible to the common people. So that is what that my area of interest lies in.
Wow. Now for a objective like that, I think no university would reject and admit. She's got a 6 on 7, by the way. 6 universities admits out of 7 universities, and that's the kind of clarity you need to have in terms of how to go forward. Why does this a master's helping you, or why should the university pick you, and how will it help you in your long-term career goals? If you're able to address that, I think you should definitely go ahead and apply, and don't be concerned about I don't have a work experience or research experience.
Yes.
That's something we wanted to like clarify in this webinar
I
as well.
would like to suggest something actually that you should just sit down with yourself and think about what you actually want to do, write them down, and the SOP will just fall into place if you just do that. And you'll also find people who would be best to write LORs for you. So that it works out like that if you just sit and realize what you actually want to do.
All right. Wonderful. So I think with this, we'll officially move on to the Q&A session right now. In fact, a lot more discuss about visa interview as well, etc. Now, before that, now that it's quite clear, so far we've discussed, what kind of strategy, what kind of experience, that learning that you've taken up from Shreya. How many guys here are quite confident and quite clear that probably, yes, I need to ensure that I take a stand to go for my master's with the profile I have? And how many of you are very clear that whatever it takes, I'm going to build my profile from here on to get that dream I'm really looking for? How many of you are very clear about that right now? Shreya, Simran, Yash, Mukul, Rahul? How many? So Prakash is unclear, unclear. Yes, yes, yes. A lot of yes. In fact, a couple of messages saying inspiring. Wow, Shruti. All right, great. So that is the objective of today's webinar, is to help you get clarity that there are a lot of people who are just like you competing on a global scale, and it's about getting the right information for you to ensure that you reach that kind of university with proper holistic presentation of your profile. We're going to jump onto the Q&A session, but before that, how many of you here are looking for assistance from GREs to help you frame your application process, prepare for GRE, and ensure that you get an admit for fall 2019 from here on? Do ensure that you answer the poll that is launched in your screen. And in parallel to that, I have a question for Shreya as well. Shreya, from your experience, how is your overall understanding, how is your experience with GREH, and with respect to GRE preparation and admission counseling? What did you like the most? What did you not like? Can you please share your feedback with us?
Okay, so I think it has been a very good experience because even when I was preparing for GRE, I was assigned counselors for verbal and for quant. So whenever I had any doubt, they used to clear it instantly or within a day or two. And like I said, it is a very reliable source of information, of accurate information that you will really need at every step. Like even yesterday, I asked them what kind of questions I should expect in my immigration. So yes, they help you throughout the whole process. And talking about admission counseling, they help me frame the SOP. They, we would constantly be in touch. And if I said I don't want this like that, they would change it, put it in another way. And they also helped select people for the LOR. And they were the ones who told me that you take two people from your college, you include your internship manager for your LOR. So that is how it was categorized, and helping in university selection. And finally, the visa interview. So I had a couple of mock visa interviews before my actual interview. So it helped quite a lot, helped gain confidence. So I'm very happy with
All right, very, very glad to hear that. In fact, Shreya, I think that solving that lack of information is a very, very big step towards helping the students. That's one thing we try to do. Now, guys, if I can see a lot of people addressing that you're looking for assistance, GRE prep, admission, counseling, etc. If you are very serious and you're very, very clear about starting your preparation today and looking for assistance to get started, just type in GRE in your chat box and send it to me. I'll share a link privately with you guys. So open that link in whichever browser that you're using, Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, Internet Explorer. You can just use in your respective browsers. Start filling your name, email ID, and your phone number in that particular link. And once you start doing that, you will be assigned one exclusive student counselor who will have a call with you, a one-on-one call with you, understand what kind of profile you come from, what kind of background do you come from, and help you design a timeline that you can use to target the top university admits, deadlines, and etc. And if you're lucky enough, you might also be able to avail exclusive call from our offers on premium GRE and admission counseling programs as well. So currently, I've shared the link with all of you in your chat box. If you're not able to find it, it's available on the right of your screen. If you're in your mobile phone, there's a question mark button in the top tab. If you click on that, you'll be able to access the link. Just type in GRE and send it to me, and you will receive the link privately in your inbox right away. Okay. So in the meantime, we can just jump forward. Guys, I can see a lot of you requesting for the link. I've already shared the link in the chat box. Just click on that and start filling in your details. In the meantime, I'll also continue the Q&A session because we have very limited time here. Now, a question here for you, Shreya, is that how did you choose the people who are looking for LOR? How did you choose the right person, and how did you get their contact? A question from
it.
Dishti.
Okay, so for my LORs, I took one from a faculty in my college who had also been a mentor. He had taught me for about 2 years, so I had known him for 2.5 years, and he knew me pretty well. He knew my achievements and he knew how I performed in class, so that was one. The second one I took from my director. So I was also in touch with him, so being in college, and I used to take part in a lot of tests and things, competitions in college, so he knew me like that. So that is why I took one from my director. But it's not always important that the people you take the LOR from have to hold very high positions in any respective institute. And the third one was from my internship manager, where I had done my summer internship from. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, I think that way internships come really handy because you get to meet some industrial expert,
Yes, yes,
and
very
having
true.
that connection outside is very important. Yes. So the next question I'm able to see is that Sanjana Sandeep. I think this question we've addressed already, but let's just reassure here. But a question is that I've done just one internship. Is it necessary to do more than one internship if we have a low GPA?
I wouldn't say it is very necessary that you need to do another internship, but you can always look for some workshop, some online class that you can fill up in these few months left before you actually get your applications through. Somehow, if you feel the need to do so, because I mean, it would be good if you have a few more things backing up your passion for that subject.
Okay, all right. Now, I hope that answers the question, Sanjana. Also, to tell you one more thing, it's not about the number of internships, it's about the quality of the internship that you possess, because
Right.
the knowledge transfer happening in that is it giving you the real time exposure? That's very important. So, I think you should focus on that more than the number of internships. The second question that is very new, Paresh from the audience, Paresh Shakala. A first year student very keen to understand if I want to go for a master's abroad, when should I start looking into my GRE and how should I, what's the timeline I should follow?
Okay, so since you're still in your first year, I would say collect information for this 1 year. And when you're at the end of your second year or beginning of your third year, that would be the right time to appear for your GRE because just in case you need to take it a second time, you'll still have time for that. And start selecting universities, attend university fairs also. They keep happening in cities like Delhi also. It keeps happening every weekend almost these days and know the whole process, be very good with the information, and then yeah, second to third year is fine to start with your GRE.
All right. So I hope that addresses your question, Parish. Moving forward to the next question, I think Abhishek Datta has a question. Do you do any online courses like EDX and Coursera, etc.?
No, I did not. At one point, actually, I thought that I should do something like that because everyone was doing it, but I did not go for all that. And I did have internships, like I mentioned. I did a number of workshops too. So I did not need to do any online course as such.
All right. So I hope that addresses your question. Now, moving forward, a lot more questions coming in on those same lines, guys. So try to be okay. Now, Sudhakar says she had given a GRE in the second time. Okay. They went into week. Okay, the first what again? I think the question is same. Sudhakar wants to know the difference between the first time and second time. Probably they and
Mhm.
webinar they joined late. So
Okay.
what was the difference between the first time and the second time of your preparations?
Okay. So the second time, I was a lot more confident because after taking it for the first time, I was aware of the test center. I knew what to do when. I wasn't that nervous because in my first test I was quite nervous, and practice, lots of practice in RC. I tried to incorporate new techniques to learn words like flashcards I came up with before the second test and different ways to understand the text that is being written in comprehensions or in SC or TC, those questions, and lots of practice with quant, and that is how it helped for the second time.
All right. So, okay. Now, moving forward, a lot more questions coming in. Okay. So, your timeline, when to start preparing and when to write. What do you think is the right timeline for fall 2019 students? This is Rahul Bharadwaj's question.
Okay, so this is the correct time to start your GRE preparation if you haven't already, and it's good to take it early. Take it by end of August or September, and so that you don't get that late like me. And just in case you need to take it a second time, you have enough time for that because otherwise it builds up pressure. You know that I need to write the SOP and the LORs, and it all comes in between your preparation for GRE. And so it's better to do that, and then you can take your TOEFL, then you can start writing your SOP. Take your time. It doesn't have to complete in one day. Start contacting people for the LORs and tell them how the process is going to be because they would ultimately have to update the LORs or upload them in the particular portal. So if they would be free to or available to do that. So yeah, that all that needs to be done. And then finally, our application process would start in mid-November to December. The deadlines actually start in November, December. The applications start in September, October.
All right. So I hope that answers your question. Now, moving forward, one important question that I did find out is how were you able to manage time with respect to your college and GRE preparations? What was that like? How challenging was it, and how did you overcome that?
It was quite difficult to be honest because I had long college hours. So, like I said, I used to wake up early in the morning around 5 and do one portion, like either verbal or quant in the morning because I felt quite fresh in the morning. Then in college all day through, I used to keep revising words. Like I made flashcards, I used to carry them to my college. I used to carry them in my bag, and I used to take a college bus. So in the bus also, I used to sit and do the practice the word bot app. And then in free classes, free lectures, I used to do some quant practice. I always used to carry the books. Then when I was also taking help from GRE Edge, I used to, there were lessons that were there that I had to complete each day. very personalized according to my schedule. So I used to take my laptop to college and do that in my free time, and again come back and do another section. That is how I managed.
All right. Wow. It is like it's a very inspiring journey to from the outset it was like that, and I think as I get to know more and more, it does definitely add up to this. So I think with that we kind of come to the end of the session. But I want to say the one thing, Shreya. I think this what you're going to do is a 1 year effort of relentless. I think it's really
Yes.
inspiring to hear that, and in 1 week you'll probably be in US, and I really wish you all the best from here on. Do
Thank
stay
you
in
so
touch.
much. Thank you so much.
Do you have any final message for our students today?
Well, I would say the whole process is going to be very tedious, but don't let that come in your way. And I am sure you're going to make it. So just go ahead, be positive, and just go chase your dreams.
Chase your dreams indeed. Guys, would you all promise to chase your dreams as well? In fact, that's the message from our guest today, from Shreya. 315 in GRE and got to admit in UPenn, and she's flying next Thursday. And she has been really, really helpful. Like the audience also agree with me, a lot of important content, a lot of important information that we can use as a part for our journey as well. So thank you so much, Shreya. I really hope I can catch up with you sometime soon as well.
Thank you so much.
All right. So, guys in the audience, thank you so much for being a fantastic audience as well. A lot of good questions, a lot of good, patience as well. Thank you for that. I hope you found the seminar to be informative and helpful. If you'd like to contact us, if you want any more assistance with respect to your master's GRE preparation, this is the contact information right on our screen right now. Feel free to contact us at 988 or email us at info@gre.com. We'll definitely be happy to help you out. Or if you're looking for specific assistance, just there's a link in your chat box. Click on that and start filling your details. Until I see you in the upcoming webinars, this is Vishnu and Shreya signing off. A very good evening and take care, guys.